Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais. And as usual, I say founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. We are a Boston-based, syndicated, fully producing internet radio station with all the bells and whistles. You can listen to us anywhere in the world. You can listen in cars, ask Alexa, go online, get the apps. And we are also on a number of podcast directories like Spotify. If you can go there and listen to the shows. However, if you want to listen to the live shows and call in, then you tune into Dream Vision 7 radio network. So we have a returning guest. I'm actually starting a series with him, and this is series number 1. My guest is Phil George. He is a clinical biochemist, certified personal trainer, and health coach. He has his own show right on Dream Vision 7. It is every Wednesday, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can get more of what his wisdom is all about. But because he's a clinical biochemist, he looks at things in a different perspective or from a different eye, and I wanted to have him on as a series. So it starts today, and then every come April and May, the second Tuesday at 3 p.m. We're doing this at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll have Phil back. Okay, so mark your calendars, April and May, second Tuesday of the month, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So Phil has been doing all kinds of things. He does seminars at senior centers. He's a health coach. He has I love the way his mind works. And so without further ado, Phil, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Deborah. I really appreciate it. And as always, I really love talking to you.
Thank you. We have fun. And so this particular topic that we're going to do is let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. So let's get right into it. You mentioned, and I know from my own experience, and I have to say for the listeners, I'm not a clinician. I'm a practitioner for energy medicine, but I'm not a clinician. However, I have been very interested in nutrition since I started having kids, and that was eons ago. So it really is. Food is medicine. So how did you get in? Did it start from your own health and you became more interested and wanted to become a clinical biochemist, or how did that work?
Well, it was weird how it started. So I was in the Air Force, so I started late, and it went out on the GI Bill. And just a brief story, so I feel sorry for my poor mother, now deceased, but so she sent me to a Catholic school, and Deborah, I hated school. I hated it. The nuns kept on telling my mother, he's got so much potential, but he just doesn't care. And I don't want to compare myself to Einstein because I'm not, but the same thing happened with Einstein, and the same thing happened with Elon Musk, actually. I just read this, that they thought Elon Musk was retarded at one time. So, and
well, they didn't even use that term, right?
Right, whatever
they don't use that.
Yeah, whatever term they use, but with Einstein, they told Einstein's parents to send him to trade school. And so, again, I'm no Einstein, I'm certainly no Musk, but I just didn't find it interesting at all, and I barely scraped by, D's and rest of the stuff. So I just had no interest in it. My thinking was, I like to get out and make some money. I don't see any purpose in algebra or any of this. What am I ever going to do with this? So what happened? I went into the Air Force. So if anybody out there, if you've got kids like me, don't give up on them. There's a potential there. So I was a dum-dum basically, and so went into the Air Force, and it was stationed in California. And community college in California are free. There's no cost. So I had some extra time on my hands. So I said, what the heck, I'll go to college. And the first course I took was philosophy. I loved it. And I got an A in it. So that kind of shocked me. And then I said, then I took a psychology course, got an A in that too, and that shocked me. So I said, you know what? It may not be that I'm not that intelligent. It may just be that I just wasn't interested in the subjects. So long story short, I went on and I went back to Massachusetts, and I went to a junior college here, but I was so far behind I had to take all kinds of remedial courses just to keep up, because I never learned anything in middle school. So I took those, and to my surprise, the very first year I did in junior college, I finished at the top of my class, straight A's, Deborah. So that was shocking.
Wow. Yes.
So I said, you know what, I can do this. So I went on, and again, it was a long road for me because I was so far behind. I didn't learn any of the basics. And I went there, and then I went to a four-year college, and I went into basically, the pre-med was pre-med, or biochemistry, and so I really wanted to be a veterinarian, but in Massachusetts we have Tufts now, but there were no veterinarian schools here. I could have only attended Cornell in New York, but it would be so expensive because I wasn't a resident. So I couldn't go to medical school because I was too old. I just came out. They didn't accept people at my age. So then I found out about biochemistry, and I went into it, and I really, really liked it. And I found out my mind kind of works in terms like an engineer, like problem solving. In fact, an interesting fact: the best physicians actually are engineers, because it really what medicine is. It's problem solving, right, Deborah? Problem solving. That's what it comes down to. Right. But what I found, and so I became a clinic. Well, let me just back up. So my undergrad is in biochemistry, which is, people kind of know what that is. It's basically, just the study of chemistry in the body and how it works. But then I went on, because I couldn't get into vet school, I also got a degree in what's called clinical biochemistry. So what clinical biochemistry is, this is basically lab work. So my job description was to consult with physicians on different pathologies or illnesses. So I would do lab work and basically, look at what's going on, look at their red cells, their white cells. I wound up working at a very small hospital, and I think that was to my great advantage, because I did every single department. I could have specialized in microbiology. I could have specialized in chemistry. I could have specialized in hematology. A lot of people did, and I'd work in one department. But I worked in a small hospital, so I kind of did everything. So, and that gives me a very broad perspective. I even did, and good example, I even did toxicology. So somebody's driving along and the cop pulls them over and they draw their blood. I would do like an alcohol test on them, or a cocaine test, or to see if they overdosed on something. So that's toxicology. I also did microbiology, viruses. I also did parasitology. So I did like just about everything in the lab. So I have a pretty broad understanding of in terms of different types of tests relate to the relate to the human body. So I found it fascinating, and the more I learned, then I realized that you got to be careful what you eat. Obviously, you got to be careful to take care of yourself and things like that. But one of the things is I also belong to an organization called Root Cause Practitioners. So when I deal with clients, I don't want to just throw a drug at it. I want to understand what's causing the problem. The analogy I like to use, when I give my seminars or I give my, or I work with clients. So Deborah, you want to do a thought experiment with me?
Sure.
Okay. So let's just imagine you have a house and you're out in the country and you have a nice beautiful stream. You're going out there. You get up first thing in the morning. You walk out to the stream and you have a whole bunch of garbage just piled up right out in front of them. So you clean it up. Next morning you come out, same thing. Several days, garbage. So Deborah, let me ask you this. So if that were to happen, what would you do if you kept on seeing garbage in your stream day after day?
I would find out where it's coming from.
Bingo. Okay. You'd go upstream, right, Deborah? You'd go upstream, right?
Yes.
I go on. You maybe take your car and go upstream and see what's going on. So that's exactly what I do. I go upstream to see what's causing the problem. Okay. I'll give you. I'm meeting with a client tomorrow, and I get all their lab work, I get all the meds they're on, and everything else. This is actually the theme of my show. When I start my show off, all my shows, I say, my goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. So I'm hopefully going to give you more than one, the audience more than one.
Right.
So I look at all his meds, and he's on most people, statin, the number one prescribed drug in the country, and he's taking statins. And one of his complaint was muscle aches. He says he's got a lot of muscle aches all the time. So I already checked up, and I want to know what supplements he was taking. So for the audience out there, a little bit of biochemistry, going back to your high school biochemistry. So people have heard of mitochondria, right? The powerhouse of the cell. Everybody knows that. So what they don't realize, the mitochondria, it produces ATP, which is the energy molecule. So if you don't have ATP, you're dead. In fact, cyanide, that's how cyanide kills you. It stops the production of ATP. So what happens, in order to make ATP, you have something called the electron transport chain, and that's like a bit of what am I looking for? It's like making a car. It's it goes from point A to point B, and like that. Well, the very first part of it is you need something called ubiquinone, which is really CoQ10. Most people have heard of CoQ10, and if you don't have enough CoQ10, you can't make the ATP. The word I was looking for is assembly line. It's an assembly line. So what happens? One of the ways that the statins work is it interferes with the production of CoQ10. And if you can't make energy, you wind up getting a lot of aches and pains. And I don't know why this is, but very few doctors will tell their patient to take the CoQ10 to offset, the decrease in ubiquinone made in the electron transport chain. So that's going to be like an easy fix for me there, right? I'll just give them actually for the audience to know. You want to take something called ubiquinol. It's a form of CoQ10, but it's patented, but it's a lot more what they call bioavailable. Your body uses it much more easier. So, again, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what's causing the problem, okay? So, in this case, it's a lack of ubiquinone or CoQ10. The other thing I run across a lot is high blood pressure. And what happens with high blood pressure, Deborah, is what's happening is the term they use is idiopathic. What idiopathic means, we don't know what's causing it. Okay. So what I do with clients a lot of times, people have heard of nitroglycerin. You have a heart attack, they inject the nitroglycerin in you. So there's part of that is called nitric oxide. They won the Nobel Prize for this a few years ago. So I can give people the particular supplements with nitric oxide in it, and that'll relax their blood vessels. And so a lot of times I can basically have people, get off their meds just by replacing it with what they need, because the med is just fixing a problem. Okay, so I know I got off track there, Deborah, already. I got off track.
Right. And the thing is with any kind of med like that, and people need it, there's always side effects, and there's always things that happen. So then there's another pill that needs to be given to counteract the side effect of the first pill. And that's the way our system works. And what I find, too, is from experience in the family and such, that meds seem to work pretty well at first, and then the body just can't assimilate everything that it's been given. It's like it has to go to a different path or something within the body, and then that can cause some other serious situations. Does that make sense to you?
No, you're absolutely correct, Deborah, because there's no meds without side effects. I've had a pharmacist on my show a few times, and basically she wrote a book called A Med Strong, and she calls it polypharmacy. In other words, she says once they get you on the drug, they just never take you off it. And so you have to review this stuff all the time. And again, this isn't medical advice, but she says like you have to basically tidy yourself off it a little bit, just a little bit at a time, and see what happens. And because what happens, what she said is what happens when one doctor puts you on it, the other doctor that sees it, they may not want to take you off it because they didn't prescribe it in the first place. And virtually every drug has some kind of a side effect. A good example, again, we talked about high blood pressure, is the first thing they give you on high blood pressure is something called a diuretic, which means it makes you urinate more. But they found out with a diuretic, it actually can cause kidney problems. And the other problem is if you're urinating all the time, you're also urinating out, sodium, potassium, magnesium. So you can cause an imbalance in there. And again, going back to my original statement, it's idiopathic. They don't even know what's causing it. So that's what I'm looking at. Let's try some natural things to where we don't have to you don't have to be on these meds. Just like with any type of in terms of diabetes, excuse me, like metformin and stuff like that. You can reverse type 2 diabetes. There's a Jason Fong, he's a nephrologist. He does this all the time. I've worked with clients. I reverse type 2 diabetes. Obviously, the sooner you do it, the better, because otherwise you become what they call insulin resistant, which means, you're just not processing insulin correctly. But that's a whole other show. We should do a whole show on diabetes.
Mm-hmm. Right, some other day. Yes. So let's shift a little and get into, say, take that person that has high blood pressure and they're staying on their meds. Let's talk about foods that can heal, foods that can help, because with anything, even if you get off the med, if you're not eating properly and your food isn't balanced, or your food is zero in nutrition, that's not going to help your body overcome the high blood pressure either. There's foods that can actually bring your blood pressure down, things of that sort. So let's start that. We have a couple of minutes before we take our first break. So let's get into what can someone, say they have high blood pressure and they're hopefully working on backing off from that. But until then, what can they start with? What foods would help someone with high blood pressure?
Well, one of the things is it's not a one size fits all thing. It's basically what it is. It's basically a systemic problem. So if you have a systemic problem, you can have what they call metabolic disease, high blood pressure, high sugar. Right. Everything's going to be off. It's not just so. Once you get your body back into what they call homeostasis, or now it's called allostasis, your body's where it's supposed to be. Because one of the big problems now, Deborah, actually two main problems. One of them is called chronic inflammation, where your body is chronically inflamed. So just addressing your point about the high blood pressure, if your blood vessels are inflamed, they're closed, it's going to cause the high blood pressure. So it could be a state of chronic inflammation. The other thing I have all my clients do, which unfortunately a lot of doctors don't order because that's my specialty is lab work, is something called high-sensitive C-reactive protein, HSCRP. Guys, feel free to email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I'll send you tests these doctors should order on you that they probably won't. This measures chronic inflammation, Deborah. In other words, not like if you bang your leg, right, Deborah, you're going to get inflammation. But if you're chronically inflamed, it closes up your blood vessels. It causes all kinds of problems. So this C-reactive protein will let you know if you're chronically inflamed. So that's very important to find out from the beginning. The other thing that I just wanted to back up is actually it's more important what you don't eat, Deborah, as opposed to what you do eat. Okay, because you don't want to put poison in your body.
Well, yes, if I may interject, hold that thought, Phil. And it's not so much about what we eat or what we don't eat. We'll be back in a moment. Everyone stay with us. And just so you know, this is a live show, so we welcome callers. Bob is in the house, and he can put you right through. You don't have to wait. You can put you right through. And our number is 833-220-1200. 833-220-1200. We'll be back in a short moment.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seekonk Family Chiropractic in Seekonk, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And welcome back. We're with Phil George. He's a clinical biochemist, and he has his own radio show that is on WCRN. But most exciting is that you can catch him on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Wednesday, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can get in touch with him as well, wellnesswave.net. Again, just as it sounds, wellnesswave.net. So, Phil, pick up where you left off with food. I want to talk about food because the gut microbiome, processed foods, is the worst thing that you can ingest.
Yeah, you're right. And let me just get a little bit into the biochemistry of this. So, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's more important what you don't eat as opposed to what you do eat, because obviously if you're eating poison, that's not a good thing. So your body. This goes back. There's an expression in biology. Nothing makes sense in biology except through the lens of evolution. We've only had food like this for the last 50 years, right, Deborah? We have DoorDash 24/7. We've been around for millions of years, and before this, we would go a long period of time without eating, and we go into ketosis on that. In fact, there's a really good book called Nature Wants Us to Be Fat. So what happens, Deborah, with what we're used to going long periods of time without eating. So we're kind of like a bear. Anytime we have sweets, we're hardwired to eat it. We want to build up the fat for the heart for the long winter coming. So what happens is the more sweets you eat, the more you want and the more fat you're going to build up. And the other problem with that is after you can't absorb any more sugar, you turn it into fat. There's something called glycation. So Deborah, I don't know, do you eat meat at all?
I'm sorry?
You eat meat at all?
Chicken.
Okay. Actually, let me just get a little thought experiment. But if you had bacon, right? When you take it out of the thing, it's all squishy, right? It's all squishy. Mm-hmm. But what happens if you cook that bacon crispy? What happens to it?
It's harder to digest.
Well, it's very hard, right? It's very stiff.
Correct.
Same with chicken, right? The chicken you take out, it's nice and pliable, but once you start cooking it, right, it gets more and more firm, right? That's called That's called glycation. Same with eggs, right?
Okay.
You put an egg in there, you cook it, it's very soft, and then it gets harder and harder. That's called glycation. So what happens? That happens in your body also. So if you eat a lot of processed food, a lot of sugar, it does what they call glycates your proteins. In fact, the medical term is advanced glycation end products. Easy to remember, AGE, okay? Now, your body is made up of almost all protein. Your immune system, everything is made of protein. So what happens is if you're eating a lot of sugar, it actually glycates. It makes the proteins malfunction, so they don't work correctly. So this could be a response for a lot of the aches and pains people have, in their joints and things like that, because the proteins just are not working correctly. So that's the reason why you mentioned that's what you want. You don't want to do an ultra processed diet. You want to eat a clean diet that's not high in sugar. And the other two things, you can look this up online, but there's something called the glycemic index, and that's all over the place. So the glycemic index basically tells you how fast it's going to raise your blood sugar, how quickly. Like obviously sugar is going to be going through the roof, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, and things like that. So that's one. The other thing that they look at is something called a glycemic index. That's a little bit different. That tells you how long that particular food is going to keep your blood sugar elevated. Like Deborah, if you had 1 teaspoon of sugar, you would spike your blood sugar, then it come right down again, okay, because it gets out of your system. But one of the people are not going to like me for this, Deborah, but one of the worst foods you can eat is a bagel because it has an extremely high glycemic index. It means it not only has a high glycemic load. It also has a high glycemic index. So it keeps your blood sugar elevated for a very, very long time. So any kind of foods like that, even bread, a lot of people don't realize, but bread actually, they put sugar in it. You get sugar in bread. So there's so many things. You've got to be really, really careful with any type of starches, carbohydrates, and things like that, because again, it causes the glycation, and that causes your proteins to be misfolded. Okay, are you with me so far? Okay. So
yes, I'm with you.
Okay. The other thing people have heard of is ketosis, right, Deborah? Okay. So with ketosis, what happens, your body can burn actually 3 fuels. The fuel it burns the most is obviously sugar, okay? It goes in, gets out. What happens is if you go for an extended period of time and you don't have any sugar in your body, so the first thing that happens if you take any type of a high glycemic food, what it does is it'll take it and it'll first place it goes is into the brain, the next place it goes is into the muscle, and the third place it goes is into the liver, and that's stored as something called glycogen. It's a storage form of glucose. So with the storage form of glucose, and let's say you go through the day, and let's say you're fasting, you're not eating for 8 hours or something, it'll slowly start taking the sugar out of your liver, and then when you exhaust the sugar in your liver, the glycolysis, the glycogen, what happens is then you're going to start burning ketones. So ketones is really what it is. It's a fat molecule that's broken down into ketosis. That the smallest form of it is something called beta-hydroxybutyrate, and actually you can buy that and drink it if you wanted to. So again, in terms of the ketones, it's a very, very clean burning fuel. Okay, so it doesn't raise your insulin, doesn't do anything like that. That's why a lot of people will go onto a ketogenic diet and they'll wind up losing an awful lot of weight, because if you don't have sugar anymore, what happens is you'll start burning you start taking the fat out of your fat cells. Those fat molecules will be broken down into ketones. That'll be broken down into beta-hydroxybutyrate, and that's why people lose a lot of weight on a ketogenic diet, is because they're burning their own fat. That makes sense?
Yeah. So, but now everyone needs sugar, as you're explaining, but the main thing to keep in mind if you are focused on nutrition is, from my perspective, all kinds of fruit have natural sugar, and that's a beautiful thing. But if you're having a cupcake or any kind of sweet that a lot of Americans gravitate to, that's a whole different ball game. So sometimes when you think of eliminating sugar, you're thinking of eliminating all, but I believe that you should have the sugar through fruit. So when someone thinks, oh, I'm not going to have sugar at all, they're still having sugar. That's my point. It gets
a little bit more complicated than that. So basically, Sucrose, which is it's about half fructose, half glucose. Okay, that's your table sugar, and fructose actually is metabolized entirely differently in the body than glucose is. So fructose actually goes right into the liver. In fact, it's interesting. Fructose doesn't actually raise your insulin because it goes right into the liver. There's two issues here. A lot of people think, and I thought this for many years, I would have orange juice all the time. What happens is if you're drinking any kind of a juice and it's not what they call cold pressed, it's like heated, it's pasteurized, that's pretty much straight fructose. So that's going to do a job on you. The fructose in fruit is what they call chelated. It's bound to something. It's bound to different types of molecules. So it's released a lot slower. Whereas the fructose in juice, like you just see if it's on the shelf, goes right into your body. The fructose can cause a lot of problems for people. It can cause uric acid, like the gout. It can cause a lot of problems. The other problem, if you're taking pure fructose, it also increases triglycerides, which is a really, really bad fat. It can cause a lot of problems. So I agree with you. You want to get it from fruit because, again, it's bound. It's bound to something else. So it's got a very slow release as opposed to just drinking straight. You don't want to drink straight juice unless it's cold pressed juice.
If someone actually wants to decrease their sugar intake, what would you suggest would be the first step? Because I also believe that everything needs to be gradually deleted or gradually introduced.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. What happens, that brings us to, you're talking about the microbiome, the gut bacteria. So what happens is there's a condition called the keto flu. Some people, like you just mentioned, if they go straight to a ketogenic diet or get off of the high processed food right away, it can cause problems. What happens is you've got trillions of bacteria in your gut, and what happens is when you eat, you're feeding that bacteria in your gut. So what happens in terms of that? If you're feeding if you're on a high, on a ultra processed food, you're having a lot of sugars and just bad stuff. You're increasing the amount of it's not actually correct, but we call it bad bacteria. They love it, sugar loving bacteria. Okay, they love it. So all of a sudden you get it's called dysbiosis. You get an overpopulation of these bad bacteria in your gut that love sugar. Okay, you have something in your body. It's called the vagus nerve. It goes from your gut up to your brain. It's a two-way highway, and 80%. And they call now the gut the second brain. Those two are connected by this vagus nerve. So what happens is the bacteria that are sugar-loving bacteria, it goes up to the vagus nerve, tells your brain, I want more sugar. So it makes you go out there and get more sugar because it wants more sugar. It's a loop. You keep going around and around with it. If, like you said, all of a sudden you decide overnight you're going to just go a straight keto, you're going to come down what they call the keto flu. What happens is your body's not used to it. You've almost put it into shock. Your bacteria says, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this healthy food because I'm just used to dealing with sugar over and over again. So you're right. You want to eat into this. Absolutely right.
Yeah. So when someone, so you would suggest what? Say it's someone with high blood pressure and they're a little overweight. What would you suggest that they delete from their repertoire of food that they ingest? Would it start with desserts? Because when you think about the average American, it's always, and I used to be there, where you had a meal of some fashion, and then you always wanted to follow it with a sweet of some fashion. And the other piece of it, too, is I wanted to throw out there, is when you come off all of that and your body's thriving on real food, real juice, and when I say juice, I'm talking about green juice with a number of vegetables in there, and then you introduce, okay, so now it's a holiday, and then they have a piece of chocolate cake, and it may be made from scratch, it may be all of that, but it has quite a bit of sugar in it. And then you immediately your stomach just turns to whatever, and you feel sick. And that I find that so interesting, because when you pay attention to your body's saying, excuse me, I do not want that chocolate cake. Do not do that. And then the other piece that I think is so important about sugar is, from the research and such, they're finding that sugar is really poison for someone that has cancer, because the cancer cells feed on the sugar. And so that's a big one, that if anyone is facing cancer, whether they're doing whatever they choose to do with chemo or any of that sort of thing, they should cut out their sugar. And they don't need a doctor's permission to cut out sugar. That's a choice that you can make.
You're absolutely right. We can do a whole show on that. You're absolutely right. I wanted to mention a couple of things, and you're going to, the audience is going to love me for this. So what happens is everybody likes sweet stuff, okay? And the biggest thing I have with my clients is getting them off the sweet stuff. So you've heard of, sugar substitutes. A lot of them are not good for you. But I've run across, I haven't been this excited about something in a long time, but I'm really excited about this. I've got these actually are natural, are natural sugar substitutes. One of them is called glycine. Now, glycine is actually an amino acid. It's actually what happened. They believe glycine was actually the first amino acid on the planet. They actually found it on meteorites. So they think it's the core of life. You need glycine for everything. It's a key amino acid. And it does so many things. But what glycine is, it's very sweet. It tastes just like sugar, but it doesn't raise your blood pressure. I mean, it doesn't raise your glucose or your insulin. And I've been giving my clients this for a while, and it's indistinguishable. It's indistinguishable from sugar. So if you want to, in fact, one of the sponsors of one of my shows, our New Kitchen, I have him working on different baking recipes with this. So you can put glycine, you can use glycine as a substitute, but what they found out with glycine is, I got something I wanted to, where is it? Okay. So these are the benefits of glycine. First of all, it supports your skin collagen, so it makes your skin better. It counteracts, remember we talk about those glycation end products, it counteracts the advanced glycation end products. It increases the antioxidant defense through glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant in the body. In fact, you know about collagen, right, Deborah, how important collagen is? It's the most ubiquitous protein in the body. Every third molecule for collagen is glycine. So you have to have glycine to make collagen. What it does is it helps you with your sleep. It lowers your body temperature before you go to sleep. So you take a teaspoon of this when you go to sleep. It helps you sleep. It increases the calming neurotransmitter GABA. GABA calms you down. It lowers your blood sugar. And it has a cardioprotective, neuroprotective, and liver protective effects. So glycine, this is the best thing I've run across in a really, really long time, because again, it's a great sugar substitute, and it's sweet. So if you put it in your coffee or something like that, you're not gonna, it's a great substitute.
Right.
So. Feel free to email me, Phil George, at Charlotte, then I can send you studies on this, but I haven't been. My clients love this now. People haven't been. I haven't been excited about this thing in a long time. This glycine is a miracle. A gift from God.
Okay, hold that thought. Hold that thought because we need to take our last break. And when we come back, if you could spell it. So everyone stay with us. We'll be back more on the Love by Intuition show, which is actually in its 21st year.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids Children's Book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And I want to put out Phil George's web address again. It's wellnesswave.net. So if you may spell that as a G, start with G-L-Y?
Yeah, okay. So it's Glycine. But guys, it's probably better if you just email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I can get it. So for listeners to know, just a little bit, a little bit of chemistry here. So anything that ends in I-N-E is an amino acid. Like basically leucine, that's where to tell. The other one that you can tell, you talked about fructose, Deborah. So the sister to fructose is something called allulose. Okay, anything that ends with O-S-E, like fructose, that's a sugar. Okay, so these are all natural. These are not artificial. So allulose is the sister molecule to fructose. But allulose is much better than fructose because what happens with the allulose, it really, there's a minimal, it raises a little bit more than glycine, but not that much. But they found out in allulose, they use that in a lot of things too, so you can use one or the other. But what they found with allulose, it also kind of squashes your appetite. Just like those GLP-1s that they're selling now. It's not as strong as that, but it squashes it. The other thing I found this company basically that what they do is, and I given this to a bunch of people. Where so many people, they want a snack, which is fine, This company uses allulose, and they use dark chocolate to make this basically this bar, almost like a candy bar. But it's got zero sugar. It's got zero this, zero that. In fact, it has a zero glycemic effect. It will not raise anything. I've given this to a few people. In fact, my client I'm seeing tomorrow, I'm bringing this with me. I give this to everybody to have them try it. And if you want something sweet, this company, they have great, they have these great bars. It comes in chocolate and it comes in caramel. Doesn't raise your blood sugar. And if you look at, you can still have that sweet. It's very sweet. My wife has got a wicked sweet tooth. I mean, I have a hardest time getting her off of sweets. She actually loves this. And if she loves it, believe me, you'll love it. It's really sweet. So glycine, allulose, allulose. Email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I can hook you guys up with this stuff and this company. But I haven't been this excited about something in a long time, Deborah, because my big thing was trying to get people, to get off the sweets and get off the high carbs. Now you can have your, excuse the expression, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have this, and a lot of people are cooking with this. The other one, a lot of people use it. You've heard of monk fruit, right, Deborah?
Right.
Monk fruit. A lot of people use monk fruit. Again, it's a good natural sweetener. But I think these two are better. This glycine and allulose, and they're using it now a lot more in sweets, but without raising your blood sugar or raising your insulin.
Right. It's an interesting thing with sugar. If you're using coconut sugar and different sugars that you're speaking of, different that you're excited about, and I can see that for baking, and it turns out to be a little different than what someone is used to. So, like, take a warm chocolate chip cookie that you can put a little bit of quinoa in there and you still have an excellent cookie, but then when you start putting in coconut sugar and different things, it turns to something different. And then you have to acquire a taste for that. Now, if you're celiac and dairy-free, you're just excited to have a chocolate chip cookie that tastes anything like a normal one. But for those that can eat...
What I like,
I'm sorry.
What I like, they have obviously chefs or whoever, or people they manufacture this stuff that'll taste good. So I'm not a baker, so I can't really speak to that. But in terms of just replacing your morning coffee, instead of putting sugar in it, put the glycine in it, or the allulose in it.
Right.
If you have tea, instead of putting the sugar in it, do that. You want a sweet treat? Email me. You try the stuff. It'll if you just make these small changes. It actually makes a difference. One thing I wanna just mention to you, Deborah, you had brought up earlier that we need sugar. You do not need sugar. You could go your whole life without having sugar, and the reason, in fact, you can go through your whole life without having any carbohydrates. The reason is your body has. Yep. I'll send you this. There's a mechanism in your body of your body called gluconeogenesis. Gluco is sugar, neo is new, making new sugar. You can make sugar from fat. You can make sugar from protein. Your body can make sugar on its own. In fact, most people don't know this, but the world record for a person going without eating any food is more than 365 days. You can look this up on AI. He was a guy in England. He was like 500 pounds or something, but you have to drink water and electrolytes and stuff like that. So he was under a doctor's thing, and he lost a ton of weight. So you can go very long periods of time without eating if you have a lot of adipose tissue on you. You can go a very, very long time. A word of caution to the ladies out there. There used to be an expression: you can never be too thin, or too rich. Well, with ladies, you've got to be careful. There's something you need to maintain a certain amount of body fat. Once you get below 20% body fat, what'll happen is you'll start losing your cycle, and the other problem is you're going to mess up your thyroid. So I know the big thing now is these girls to be wicked thin. You've got to be really, really careful. I know a girl personally that really messed her up, and she's only in her 30s now, and she's really messed up. She got really, really thin, and she had a hard time coming out of it. Men can go into single-digit body fat. Women, once you get below about, there's basically basic minimum that you need. And going back to evolution and biology, again, what happens is women are really designed to have babies, and the body's saying if you don't have enough fat, it goes into shutdown mode. So ladies, be careful. Don't get too thin. Okay, good. If you can wait, check your body fat. Make sure that you're above that 18% maintenance thing for body fat.
Good. Yes. Well, we only have a couple more.
You wanted a suggestion on what to do in terms of eating. So what you want to eat, is what they call a very satiating meal, which means it fills you up. And I know everybody's different. Some people are vegan, some people are vegetarians. But if you eat something that fills you up, if you don't mind eating meat, but you want grass-fed, grass-finished meat, because otherwise you get industrial meat, they fill them full of chemicals and other stuff. You don't want to be eating that. Make sure it's make sure it says grass-fed, grass-fed. Sometimes they'll fool you. They'll say grass-fed.
Add organic to that.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they'll say grass-fed, but they don't say grass-finished. That means they take the cow in the pasture for a little while, and then they put them back in there, and they feed them grain. The grain's filled with glyphosate, Roundup, human growth hormone, all kinds of nasty stuff. So make sure it says grass-fed, grass-finished. I had a client, and he went to lose some weight. I just had him put some, grass-fed sausages and stuff along with eggs. Eggs are very satiating. I know they're expensive now. It's the perfect food. It has everything you need in it.
Not at Market Basket. Market Basket organic eggs are still $5.
I just heard they're starting to come down, but you want the cage free. You want the cage free. You want the chickens running around eating bugs and stuff. You don't want them eating bad stuff. So, but when the eggs come down, meat, something like that. Something that fills you up. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, obviously you're eating a lot of fiber. That's going to fill you up. So you can do it as a vegetarian. You can do it that way. One word of caution, though. I know everybody's big on fiber. If you have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or Crohn's or anything like that, be careful with fiber because it'll irritate your gut and it'll make it worse. So be careful with that. Obviously, your doctor, but
yes.
Fiber's
Well, we only have a minute left, Phil, if I may interject. We have a minute left. What would you like to leave the listeners with?
Okay, I highly recommend emailing me, philgeorge@charter.net. I'll send you studies on this stuff I talked about. Guys, if you do nothing else, email me. I'll let you know what to get the glycine or the allulose. I'll send you these like almost candy bars that got zero sugar, zero carbs, and you'll love them. And it's a good way to get on to start losing weight, get on a good diet, and not have to go into giving up all your sweets.
Okay, great. All right, everyone. Stay tuned for April, the second Tuesday at 3 p.m., we'll be having Phil George back on the Love by Intuition show. Okay, until we come together again, thank you very much, Phil. Until we come together again, you're welcome. Everyone, pass the show around, listen, and then everyone, feed love consciousness, please. Feed love. And let's keep that expanding and elevating the human race until we come together again. Au revoir.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one. and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.